What's up, guys? I know it's been a long time, but I'm finally here. Sorry, it took me a few seconds here. I'm sorry for the pause there, guys, but I'm messing around with this on OBS, and I had to fix the flickering for the panel and all that kind of stuff with the camera, and then there's a little bit of delay on my screen from YouTube to like what you guys are seeing, so I wanted to make sure that it actually was like where it was supposed to be. All right, but with that said, guys, let's go ahead and let's jump into today's topic. We're talking about the new identity of the Philadelphia Eagles offense. There's a lot of news that kind of shook following the season. And it's going to be an interesting one, guys. I don't know what to make of this venture yet because it's really hard to say how the dynamics are going to work here between what's been added to the Eagles and what exists to the Eagles coaching staff and how we form like a new install. Like, how do we install this new offense? So that's the tough part, man. Like, it's really tough to predict those things. So let's just go ahead and let's rip the Band-Aid off. Let's talk about the additions coming in that we know of thus far for the Eagles offense. The first addition is Kellen Moore coming in as the offensive coordinator. The second addition is Doug Nussmeier coming in as the quarterback coach. So just from the jump, I put out a few kind of tweets out there on Twitter to where I was kind of explaining the relationship and the coaching tree that these guys are coming from. It's definitely going to uptick the rivalry with Dallas. There's no doubt about that. Like, if you go back to when basically Kellen Moore kind of got inserted into the roles in OC there for Jason Garrett in 2019, and then when Mike McCarthy took over in 2020, you had a really quarterback-centric offense for the Cowboys back then in terms of the structure for their coaching staff. So they had everything from, like, I think John Kitna was on that staff. Doug Nussmeier was coaching tight ends for whatever reason, but he's a long-standing quarterback coach, but they had him coaching tight ends. You know, obviously Jason Garrett was a former NFL quarterback. And then, of course, you had Scott Linehan, who was, previously there. He was previously there. And, of course, Kellen Moore came in as the quarterback coach and then took over as the OC in 2019. But all these guys kind of came out of that, Peterson from Boise State, Chris Peterson from Boise State to Scott Linehan tree. That's where Doug Nussmeier and that's where Kellen Moore come from. So to explain a couple things here about, like, first off, Kellen Moore, like the background, what were the criticisms in Dallas? Once again, we're taking a coach from the Chargers. And I got to tell you, if we take a coach from the Chargers and this guy helps us make a deep playoff run into the Super Bowl or we hoist the Lombardi again, man, I think they got to admit that they got a problem. My bad, guys. My bad. I'm filming from my actual phone. So just give it a second. It should catch back up, hopefully. But, when you go back and look through the coaching tree, some of the criticisms that I heard from Dallas Cowboy content creators, sorry it's flickering again, but some of the criticisms I heard from Dallas content creators was, simply put, like, Kellen Moore would call these really good games, but then he would be inconsistent in other games. There's things like that are being said out there. So, in terms of, like, how I view Kellen Moore, like, what is Kellen Moore as a coach, guys? He's going to come out of this Chris Peterson tree to where they kind of ran things that you've heard here in Philadelphia, guys. We've all heard the terminology. We've heard the things said before, which is that, Nick runs an identity-less offense, right? It is an offense without pure identity. It's matchup based. And that's kind of what Chris Peterson ran at Boise State there when Kellen Moore was his college quarterback. So you're going to get some of the meshing of concepts here when it comes to this idea of, like, not having a pure identity, but building the roster around the quarterback and the skill position players you have, not having that inherently built in. I'm not saying things will be successful or a failure. That really just depends upon the nature of the relationship between the quarterback coach, the offensive coordinator, your passing game coordinator, and your head coach. None of us know how it's going to turn out. It's factual in terms of the way that they view offensive concepts. That's how they view these things, man. Let me see if I can get this thing to stop flickering, guys. So Doug Nussmeier. What you need to know about Doug Nussmeier is that Doug Nussmeier was a college quarterback at Idaho And while he was at Idaho, one of the things that he was known for, guys, is at Idaho, he was ironically the quarterback for the offensive coordinator there, who was Scott Linehan. So he's coming out of the Scott Linehan kind of like concept of things, guys. Like that's where he's coming from right now. Like that's the tree in which he's coming out of. So you can see like there's this heavy Dallas influence to where Scott Linehan's, some of his former guys are kind of coming into the system here in Philadelphia. Outside of just having Scott Linehan and stuff like that, like we can see quickly like how everything's kind of playing out here. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to see if I get to stop flickering, but it's kind of a pain here because I think I have to go back into my display capture and then I think I got to mess around with this for a second underneath properties. I don't know why it's doing it. It's what's going on, guys, is trying to refresh, and the refresh rate is it's messing it up. So let me see if I can't do change the refresh rate here. That should stop that from happening. Use custom audio, allow rotation. Sorry, guys, I'm just reading through the options here because something's going on here to where it's trying to refresh. Frames per second. Let me see if I move. Maybe if I move that down, it'll help it. No, it's on 30. It's where it's supposed to be. Go to defaults. Anyways, guys, I'm sorry. The call messed it up, and I think disabled my settings I had on here. So that's something I'm going to have to figure out with OBS because that is definitely a little annoying for it to do that. So I'm going to go to display capture, go to properties, primary monitor, capture method is automatic, cursor, force SDR. Oh, well, it is what it is, guys. I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do there. I don't want to mess with it too much. All right. So I think the big elephant in the room here, guys, is the fact of what are they going to do on third down? Like, how are they going to structure the third down offense, and how is that going to look different versus pressure and blitzes? And then I think the second part of this is going to be in terms of like, okay, once again, you're taking former quarterbacks, you're inserting them into not only the install of the offense, so having direction over like what the playbook will look like. Obviously, install direction of the playbook would leak into how you game plan. So the game plans you come up with, those first 2-3 possessions you see of a football game, guys, offensively. But I think more so it's about the rhythm. It's the rhythm of play calling, right? It's this idea of like as the game settles in, what happens as the game settles in? Like, and that's where it's going to get real tricky here, guys, because we heard reports last year that Nick was interfering probably when he shouldn't have. Like, if you're going to have a guy call the plays, unless you have very specific rules to where, like, okay, like, you're going to call here, but when it comes to the 2 minutes or comes to the red zone, I'm calling it. Unless you have hard set rules like that, I'm generally in favor of stay out of it. Now, I will admit I'm a little jaded when it comes to this because I have worked for offensive-minded coaches before as an offensive coordinator, to where I've had some guys that did not want to interrupt. They did not want to destroy my flow. I had other guys that, they had their own hard set rules. They'd call the 2-minute offense, whatever. It is what it is. I've also had meddlesome coaches that want to interject and want to interrupt. And that's tough, man, because now you start disrupting the flow and the rhythm of what I'm trying to accomplish here. That's really difficult to deal with, guys, as a coach, to be real with you. That's where it's going to get tough. These are the things, like, I don't care what anyone tells you guys, they can't predict this, okay? They cannot predict the nature of the relationship between Kellen Moore, the nature of the relationship with Nick Sirianni, Nussmeier, Doug Nussmeier, and then the other one here is it's an awkward situation with Kevin Pulos. I don't know exactly what Kevin Pulos' role is, guys. He was the passing game coordinator. I think he escaped a ton of freaking blame for what happened last year. Now, I know people can say, like, well, look, we've seen that underneath the right circumstances with Kevin Pulos, the passing game coordinator. We watched when there was a good relationship between the offensive coordinator and the head coach that we can right the ship and we can achieve a lot of things offensively. I get that. But, like, man, I think Brian Johnson took some blame for some things that were really Kevin Pulos' fault, if I'm going to be real. Now, I get what a lot of you are going to say, which is gate. I mean, come on, man. It's like his best friend, bro. That you fire Kevin Pulos, you're basically firing Nick Sirianni. I get it. But I still think it's awkward because, like, you got an offensive coordinator who's coming in to give you insights to ramp up the offense, right? To help you with the install of your playbook, okay? He's bringing his quarterback coach in, all right? And on top of that, now you got this weird kind of, does this guy even really have a true role as a passing game coordinator in Kevin Patullo? I put out a tweet on Twitter the way that I viewed the situation, guys, and what I thought should happen there. I thought what should have happened there, simply put, is I thought that Aaron Moorhead should have been allowed to seek other opportunities as a wide receiver coach, and then they should have slid basically Kevin Patullo into Aaron Moorhead's position as the wide receiver coach, as he himself is a former wide receiver coach. He actually lost his spot in Indianapolis to Mike Rowe, ironically, former wide receiver coach for the Eagles and offensive coordinator here, when he joined Frank Reich's staff, and then basically Patullo became the passing game coordinator for them in Indianapolis before he joined Nick here in Philly. So I don't know. I would probably slide him back. That's what I would have done personally. I would have slid him back into that wide receiver role. And it's nothing personal against Aaron Moorhead. I have defended Aaron Moorhead before. I thought that young man deserved an opportunity to try to turn things around. And I thought we were going through entirely too many wide receiver coaches for a period of time. Like every year, you can't keep going to another wide receiver coach. So I was like, yo, give him a chance. Let's see what he wants to do. But at the same time, man, like we got to be realistic of the fact that, guys, we got dudes don't know the simplest things out there on the football field, the wide receiver position, things that you learn in Pee Wee football, such as stepping flat and getting to the sideline to block out on a screen pass. Okay, dudes are still failing to do that at the professional level. It blows my mind. That's a direct result of coaching. You know, we had guys that were basically failing to run switch routes, running into each other, right? The amount of essentially illegal formations, not from the offensive line. I don't think that's on the fault of the wide receiver coach, but we've seen wide receivers get called for this quite a bit too, to where they're blocking downfield before the ball is actually received from the wide receiver. So that's a penalty. Like we've seen these little mix-ups here, man, failing to run switch routes, which still blows my mind that we can't block up a proper screen and we can't run freaking switch routes. Like that's, to me, like I would have probably let Aaron Moorhead seek other opportunities. I would have probably slid Kevin Patullo into that role and then shape the offense and kind of like the way that the direction's going to come in terms of making the install and doing things like that. I would have had Patullo specializing more so in making sure these receivers are on the same page. I would have tried to have him get to the point where he's like, okay, like, look, man, your job is when, we put this playbook together, when we put this install together, and we're game planning, you make sure these dudes are executing correctly, Kevin. That's what I would have done. I would have simplified things here, personally. That's just my take on it, guys. And I've said this on Twitter. And I know some of the guys that interact with us, they're pretty young. So they haven't had an opportunity yet to learn some of the nuances in terms of like how an install of an offense works. But like I told people, if you think that they're just bringing Kellen Moore in and he's designing 100% of the playbook, you're wrong. It's just not how install works. Like it's by committee. However, what I heard said, from what I picked up on these interviews, is that Kellen Moore is going to have a big voice in terms of that install. They're not just bringing him in here to be like essentially like an extension of Nick Sirianni. He's here to help Nick find better ideas. That's what I got from it, right? I'm hoping that we get a relationship that is similar or familiar in a way to what we saw that could be accomplished when Nick had his guy here. You know what I mean? Like when Nick had his guy here and Shane Steichen, the offense was falling the right way. I think there's got to be some trust here. And like I said, guys, I personally, I liked Brian Johnson. I do think that Brian Johnson went through some headaches here as a rookie play caller. I think there were things that were happening at times. But with that said, guys, I also I know the importance of the offensive coordinator and the head coach and the fact that these two got to be on the same page, especially with the quarterback. If there's any link there between head coach, coordinator, and quarterback that's off, you got a big problem. You have like a major, major problem on your hands if one of those three things is off. So, I mean, that's going to be the part of it's going to be kind of tough, guys. Like they've got to figure out that balance, right? I mean, I've talked to a few guys I know from the Dallas Cowboys content creation side of things, and we were going back and forth to like what my thoughts were on Kellen Moore on Twitter. And I told him, I'm like, look, man, I can't tell you what the nature of the relationship was between, Kellen Moore and Jason Garrett. I can't tell you the relationship between Kellen Moore and, Mike McCarthy. I can't tell you what the relationship will be between Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni. However, I will say that there are times where guys are actually really smart football minds. They know what they're doing. They are smart guys, but the culture, the mix isn't right between head coach and coordinator. That crap happens, or from coordinator to quarterback. I don't think that was the case with Brian Johnson, but still, you can be good at what you do and just not be a good fit. Like any of us who have ever worked, a 9-to-5 job, we know when we walk into a situation, we know that we know the job. We're good at the job. But come on, man. If you've been around the block enough times, bro, you've been involved with an organization where you're like, yo, I'm just not a good fit here. I'm not a good fit for this organization. This ain't for me. I don't like this culture, bro. I don't like these people. I don't like talking to these people. I don't want to be around these freaking people. We've all been there before, guys. I mean, I just think sometimes that kind of crap happens in the NFL, and I think people get really ticked off. We've seen it happen where someone will leave the Eagles, and then they're a pretty good fit at where they go, and we're like, yo, why didn't we get that kind of production here? It never meant that they weren't good coaches or they weren't good players. It just meant they were a bad fit for what was in Philly at the time. All right, guys, let me hit a few comments. Antonio, you definitely didn't miss it, buddy. My guy Antonio said, yo, what's up, man? How you doing, Antonio? Guys, I'm reading from, it's on my phone, so I probably can't pull it up because I'm not in StreamYard. My guy Reese says, haven't seen you in a while, Gate City Sports. My guy, hey, I'm trying to do it best I can, man. There's a lot of stuff going on, guys, and I will make a live stream one day, and I will explain everything that's going on. But there's a lot going on behind the scenes that I can't talk about yet. But as soon as everything gets resolved and I can talk about what's going on, I'll tell you guys what happened. One Above All said, morning, Gates, on a call, but eager to listen in regarding the recent hires. Appreciate you, One Above All. My guy Reese said, good morning. Messiah, what's good, man? He said, yo. Reese said, 2020. JLU said, hopefully you're doing well, Gate. We need to run the ball more. Yeah, that was one of the criticisms that they had about him in Dallas, is that he ran the ball too much. I'm like, I'm not too sure that's a bad thing here in Philly, man. Drew said, well. What's up, Drew? How you doing, man? Drew said, I thought the flickering was me. No, it's the refresh rate, guys. I'm sorry. I had it fixed when I first started the stream, and then that fall came in. I think it reset my settings, so yeah, it's trying to refresh, and it keeps doing that. So yeah, I won't stay on too long today because I know that's going to be annoying. Yeah, Blicker Gate. Sorry, guys. Dominique said, great content. Appreciate you, man. GM Gate City. Appreciate you, Eric. Drew said, looking for phone connection. What are you using? It's on my Wi-Fi network. It's because a phone call came in, guys. And when that phone call came in, it kicked it. It kicked the refresh rate. So now it keeps trying to refresh on me. Missed the X's and O's. At Philly 500, can we get a collaboration? I've collabed with 500 before. I know Joel pretty well. He's a good guy. My guy Dominique said, it all good. Hey, appreciate y'all, man. Collaborations with Gate City. Mike, I know Mike real well, man. I know Mike since we started our channels, man. EEZ said, why did Lori allow Pulos to stay but wanted Press Taylor fired? Makes no sense. I don't know, EEZ. I'm not in the inside there, so I can't say what the nature of the conversations were. I don't know. I'm not sure. Drew said, I imagine that there will be some growing pains with the changes. I think it is a step in the right direction, but I am concerned if there will be patience for growth. Yeah, Drew. I mean, it's a good point, man. I mean, I don't know how much time we're going to give this thing to gel. Is the screen blinking for everybody else? Yeah, guys, it should be blinking for you. It's a refresh rate. Gate, we had the same problems last year against the Blitz and scheming guys open, but a very easy schedule and individual talent did a good job masking that. The only thing I've seen good come from Aaron Moorhead was the Peyton Manning suggestion box story. I can't excuse the job Brian Johnson did this year. Quarterback draw power should never be your main runs. I told you guys when I broke him down that was coming, guys, that he does box counts. That's always been a thing. You're always going to get that when you have a quarterback that can pick it up. There's a rhythm to it. Yeah, there's a rhythm to calling these things, guys. It's really tough, man, because so much of this is rhythm. What's up, Coach? What's going on, Cody? We ran quarterback draw and power the year before under Steichen, but you are right. I still think that is Sirianni. I'm crazy excited about Kellen Moore, period. If Vic can get us to 10 to 15 rank on defense, I think we got a shot. 56K dial up. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I could try to mess with it again, but there's should be, hang on. So underneath my display, I should be able to Go on my iPhone. Let me double tap it. That's the webcam. Let me go to configure video and just see what it does. I'll try to fix it for you guys if I can. It's kind of hard to fix it in stream. That's the problem. I don't know if you can hear that. Someone just ambulance or the fire trucks are coming by. Apply rotation data. Use hardware decoding when available. Capture audio only. Use custom audio device. I was really concerned when I first started this that the audio was going to be bad because I'm using it from my cell phone. So I had to plug this in. So I was like, I hope it actually captures it. Buffering. Yeah, the buffering's disabled. Let's see. No, it's still doing it. I have to keep messing with it, guys. This is the configure video. I'm going to keep messing with it, see if I can't get it to work. This is the, like, I hate when you have to do, like, when you do new live stream services like OBS and stuff, like, it messes with you, man. The settings do. All right, let me go back to buffering again. Let me enable it. Hit OK. All right, hopefully that works for right now. It looks like it's working, guys. Give it a few minutes to see if it catches up to what it's showing me on OBS, guys. It should show that it's working here in a second. All right, we look good. We look good to go now. All right, sorry, that's what I'm saying, guys. Like, it's luckily I have enough experience messing around with all these settings and devices that I'm pretty good at figuring stuff out in the moment. But it's a pain in the neck, man, when this stuff starts happening. I can't stand when, like, everything uses different, like, frame rates too, which is, it's hard to keep up with it. See, like, I got this, I got it set inside a studio to run on just HD, like 1080p, and I didn't put it on. I didn't want to put it on 4K because I had a feeling that it would start doing that. It would start flickering and start, trying to catch up to the frame rate. But I don't know, man. These things are always different, guys. They're always different. All right. Concepts I expect to see. I guess we can talk a little bit about, like, the concepts that are kind of like, that might be kind of coming forth here from this offensive coordinator. I think some of the things that I noticed from, like, watching some of the old film here is that we're going to see a little bit more stack sets from the wide receivers, assuming that, Kellen Moore gets control over this thing. That's a big assumption to make. But, I mean, I'm just judging what was told to us in press conference and things like that. So I'm going to say that we'll probably have a really, really good chance of actually seeing, like, stack sets, free releases being created for the wide receivers, and hopefully off of those stack sets, we start to see some creativity in terms of, like, getting these free looks. Because I got to tell you, man, when you got Dallas Goedert, when you got A.J. Brown, if they bring back a guy like, well, of course we have Devontae Smith as well. But, I mean, if they bring back a guy like Swift, like, you could do a lot, man. You could do a lot off of those free release and those stacks. Stacks, getting stack sets out there with free releases, using those guys to create space. Because that was the one thing I think was missing from the offense, is that we're supposed to be running these spread concepts. But there's times that within the spread concepts we're running, we're not necessarily trying to create space underneath to give playmakers a chance to break a tackle. Smitty can break a tackle. Gainwell can break a tackle. Like, I just didn't think they did enough in the passing game with the backs and stuff to kind of give them a chance to do that. I did see a lot of criticism down the stretch where I was seeing people that were saying, like, they were asking, like, yo, Gate, why is Dallas Goedert not being given, like, vertical opportunities? Like, why is everything so close to the line of scrimmage with Dallas Goedert? And truth be told, I don't know completely, guys. It's really hard to say without being in the room and understanding the direction they were trying to take the offense. I don't know. I think some of the fact that Dallas Goedert missing those stretches of, like, 2, 3, 4 games last season, the year prior, I think that hurts him a little bit in terms of them, like, kind of incorporating the offense around him a little bit. I do think that that's a concern with Dallas. We've got to find a way of getting that guy through 17 games in a regular season, because he's a guy that should have some flow to the offense. Like, the flow of the offense should kind of be like, he should be a security blanket. That's a really good security blanket to have as a quarterback. A big, strong tight end that can just bounce off of defenders, and he can, absolutely destroy a linebacker with athleticism. So, I mean, it's tough to predict, guys, what they're going to do conceptually outside of just saying, like, I see a lot of stack sets. I see free releases. I will say there are some sticks concepts to him, man. I saw that in Dallas. But here's the problem, guys. This is the problem I have when you judge any offensive coordinator. And this is just speaking from my own personal experience. Okay. I don't know how much control over the offense Kellen Moore had with Jason Garrett. I have no clue how much control over the install of the offense Kellen Moore had with Mike McCarthy. I am currently looking over what happened with the Chargers. Okay. Obviously, injuries and stuff had a big part of what happened with the Chargers last year, but that is the first time where he had a defensive-minded head coach. He's still going to be relegated. Staley would have had his direction he wanted the offense to take, but it's going to be a lot less meddlesome when you're dealing with a defensive-minded head coach than an offensive-minded head coach. So that one I'm kind of eager to get into a little bit more, guys, to see some of the structure there, because I'm just telling you from personal experience, guys, you cannot assume that every single concept you're seeing is the result of the offensive coordinator when you have offensive-minded head coaches. Like there's going to be some limitations, right? Some constraints on what they will allow you to do offensively. Now, I don't know the exact nature of that. It's just, I can't predict it, guys. That's really difficult to predict without being in the room. You know what I mean? Like, it's tough, man. Sorry, guys. They're trying to make me insert an ad on you guys. I've never seen Studio do this before. There are definitely some changes from the last time I was on here. All right, guys, let me get to a couple here. My guy, Unspoken Words. What's up, buddy? Easy said, if Moore does good job, I can see him coming for Nick's job in 2 years. Lurie wants stability, and finding a new OC every year is not sustainable. I don't know. We'll see, guys. I always say just let things play out. I don't know if that's true, Easy. I'm not too sure if they want that Doug Peterson type. I think they want more of the executive type. Remember, they were trying to force Doug, who fits what you're saying, to become more an executive style coach. And he didn't want to relinquish that unless it was his guy calling the plays. That was the heart of it all. I don't mind the call as a look, like Steichen used it to start off the halves of games. Johnson used it as a base scheme, $250 million quarterbacks. Let's have him run Oklahoma drills every game. So you got to remember, Slim Reaper, the way that works is, I'm just speaking because, back in the early 2000s and late 90s, man, I mean, that was a staple of what everyone did offensively, especially if you had a little athleticism to you as a quarterback. It's a simple box count. I knew that was going to be a part of the Eagles offense when I broke down Brian Johnson's film, because I watched him do it with Dak. I watched him do it with all the guys at Utah. It was definitely a part of what they were doing in Houston's offense when he was there. And then, of course, they would bring in different guys like Emery and all these other quarterbacks they had at Florida. They had some issues with doing it with Florida because it's harder for them to do a box count when you got a little bit more of a kind of long-legged, kind of gangly, not the most athletically gifted dude running the system. And they did go through that for a second there in Florida. However, you would see them just sub in guys. They would sub in guys that could run, and they would box count them. And they still box count it, even with the I can't think of the young man's name, guys. He went on and he's in Tampa Bay. He's the backup quarterback in Tampa Bay. That young man, who's like 6'5", 240-pounder. He would do box counts, but they would definitely bring in guys to run that too. So I knew that was coming. And a box count is just simply if I'm +1 and we have an intermediary yardage that I can gain. That was just the concept. That was the call. And I will tell you, some of those box counts weren't necessarily Brian Johnson, guys. I'm not going to sit here and act like Jalen Hurts wasn't box counting, man. Now it's under the direction of Nick and it's under the direction of Brian. He's doing what they're telling him, which is if you see a light box like that, then you take it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if we'll see that continued as heavily with Kellen Moore, guys. That may be something that Kellen Moore wants to pull back. It's hard to say. Best thing about Moore, in my opinion, is that they actually believe in protecting the quarterback. We throw deep out of empty way too much. More chips and max protects a lot. That should be a positive here. Yeah, I mean, there's different ways, guys. I mean, there's different ways. I think more so than chipping and protection and bringing in max protection, which I don't think is necessary necessarily. I think it's more so that Kellen Moore uses the concept of if I spread you out, right, and I go empty back set on you and you're bringing pressure and you're going to overload one side of the defense with pressure, then it's really simple. I throw the ball to the side that's overloaded. I have a hot route built in there. The ball goes to the side that's overloaded, right? Replace defender with football, right? It's QB 101 for how you beat a blitz. And I think you'll see a little bit more of that. I thought we'd get that with Brian Johnson, but I still think that Brian Johnson was – I still think Nick kind of had his hands a little bit over the design of things, and they wanted to try to create those deep throws. But the problem is that when we sustained injuries, guys, to the wide receiver position, or when we sustained injuries to Dallas Goedert, we started noticing all of a sudden that these dudes would not be in the right spot. There was a play in the playoff game against Tampa, guys, to where I believe it was Dallas Goedert that made the mistake, man. He got vertical when he was supposed to basically sit it down. He was supposed to sit it down, and then they were supposed to try to high-low that defender. So if the defender carried with Devontae on the vertical route, you hit Goedert for the first down. But if that defender peeled off and stayed with Goedert, then you got a one-on-one on the outside. That's the concept. But we would have guys that were, because of injury, those vertical concepts, they were messing it up on those third and long plays. And that started to really cause us to have 3 and outs towards the tail end of the season when those injuries started mounting up. Remember, Devontae Smith got beat up a little bit down the stretch. Goedert missed actual games. AJ got injured during the play, where we couldn't use him in the playoff game. Those things kind of caught up to us a little bit. And that's like the concept I'm talking about, where I think that you'll see more built-in hot rod stuff. I mean, there'll still be vertical elements. They're going to take shots against pressure at times. But I still think you're going to see a little bit more of okay, they're going to overload the right side. That's where I'm throwing the ball. I'm going to replace the defender with the football here. I think that's what hopefully we're going to see from this offense. Mind you, I'm not in that meeting room, so I am just giving a judgment of what I think will happen. I can't specifically say that's going to happen, but that's what I'm seeing. I see more of that on the film more than what I've seen from Nick. So, I mean, hopefully that's what comes of this. Hopefully no more obsession with half-field reads. It makes us easy to defend. To be fair, easy. I mean, I disagree, man. Half-field reads are easy to defend when the quarterback reads the wrong side of the field. All half-field reads will start as a full-field read. It's just that once you see the coverage and what's being dictated there, then you're choosing the half of the field that you're going to attack. The problem with full-field reads is it can cause you to hold the ball too long. You got to have a quarterback that's really quick in those judgments and those determinations. I mean, to be fair, Drew Brees made a really good career and a living off of half-field reads. Kyle Trash. Yeah, thanks, guys. It was Kyle Trash. This is what I was saying. Gate Howie is our executive from team building, draft, player evaluation center. You need a head coach with a good offensive installation, so your quarterback doesn't need to learn a new system every half year. I don't think our quarterback has learned a new system every half year, easy, to be fair. I think that for the most part, we ran similar concepts to what we ran the year before. I think defenses had enough time to catch up and adjust to it. And I think we saw some subtleties. I think early on in the year, you saw less dependency on RPO passes in favor of a little bit more play action over RPO, just pure RPO stuff. Could have been due to injury. Could have been because Jalen was dealing with some stuff. I don't know, but early on, there was definitely a downward trend to RPOs, but as the season went on, we saw that uptick. I don't think that they did a whole lot. I don't think there was a whole lot that was changed structurally about the offense, to be honest. So I think this is the first year where you'll see some structural changes, right? The first bat of that happened, guys, was during 2021, we had to fall into a different offense, right? Beginning of the year, we tried to run the RPO stuff. We were trying to get there. Jalen wasn't quite ready yet. And to be fair to Jalen, it wasn't just Jalen. The offense wasn't ready yet. We just didn't have enough playmakers at the wide receiver position. We just didn't have enough to threaten defenses yet to take care of that. They resorted into more of a run-heavy offense in 2021, changing it up in season. And in 2022 and 2023, we saw a little bit more of the evolution of what that RPO-based stuff would be. It's just 23, man. Teams are ready for it, guys. I mean, they got really smart in not letting the Eagles get over top of them. We saw just how many teams refused to come out of two-shell coverage. Whether it was cover two, whether it was quarters-based, we saw a lot of teams start really playing too deep. They were just not going to allow us to do that. And that's something that's got to be done, man. They've got to come back into this. They need to find another way of okay, if a team's going to sit back and they're going to do that, what can we do conceptually to create the big plays without trying to push the ball and force it 20, 25 yards down the field? That's where they're going to have to do this. Is they're going to have to work that intermediate post area, right? They're going to have to work in between the hashes deeper. They're going to have to find ways of attacking these things there are ways, even if you're in quarters or you're in cover 2, there are ways of still leveraging the coverage. It's just that they need to be a little bit more creative in the playbook with how they attack and create that leverage against those 2 shells, that 2 high shell. What's up, Steve? What's up, Philly 416? How you doing, man? Moore's a lot of quick game and hots in his playbook, something Nick didn't believe in. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how that works out easy. I don't know that's I'm apprehensive about this EEZ because I could say everything we're saying. I could say I saw the same thing from Brian Johnson when I evaluated him. I saw far more motion. I saw far more stack sets. I saw far more free releases being created when he was an offensive coordinator in terms of like what he did in college, guys. I saw more short route stuff that was there. I mean, he was still vertical, and I told people when I broke him down, there's a vertical element to his offense. But I saw a little bit more against that stuff. But then when he got the job here in Philly, that stuff was constrained. So, I mean, like, on one hand, we can say, well, Nick's coaching for his life right now. So there's going to be there's going to have to be some kind of change done here because if you put the same thing out there and you get the same result, you're absolutely going to get fired after this year. I don't think there's a doubt about that. But it's one of those things I'm going to say like this, easy. Until I see it on the field, I have to go with what this coach has showed me in terms of what they do schematically, right? And that's tough, man, because I don't know how much trust I have to believe that they're going to finally do what they should be doing. Slim Reaper said, what linebackers would you bring in this year to continue to run the Fangio system? I mean, me personally, I like linebackers that can play with a little bit of leverage. They have the arm reach. That's why I was big on Zach Cunningham when we made that signing. And I said, look, there's something intriguing about a dude that's got over 34-inch, arm reach and it's got, 80-some plus inch wingspan. Like, that dude's going to be a monster in the run game. That dude's going to be a monster in zone. You just don't want that dude manned up. If he mans up on somebody, he doesn't have the athletic profile to keep up. I like linebackers that can give you that kind of that range, that leverage to kind of make those, when they're in the right spot in their drops. So obviously linebackers in zone systems, they're dropping to a spot, right, normally. And then they're just trying to disrupt throwing windows with that reach, that length. So I prefer players like that. I also think there's something to be said, Slim Reaper, when you look at the ability to what they call stacking and then shedding tackles. Like when you're able to do that as a linebacker, when you got a tackler or guard climbing to the second level, right, and they're getting up on you, being able to physically stack and shed that guy because you have a little bit of weight behind you, and you also got, enough leverage, enough arm reach to keep them up off of your body to play the football, to play the running back. There's something about that in the run game. Now, there's also, look, Nakobe Dean is not a big dude. He's not big dude by stature in terms of the weight, height, or by the reach, right? Longer limbs, longer arms, which you would expect for a sub-6-foot guy, but it's instinct with Nakobe. Nakobe was really good in run defense because he's instinctual there. So there's something to be said about instincts, but I do say that I favor guys that have the physical attributes more when it comes to run defense. I do think that there is a physical nature to run defense and how you're able to stack and shed linemen to get to the running back. And I do think that we saw cracks in the armor down the stretch, guys. So, I mean, that for me, that's what I would be looking for. Unspoken. Yes, let me get down to that comment, guys. Yes, because the playbook was Nick's. If Lurie gives power to the OC and he does good, he gets poached, and we need a new OC, new playbook, etc. It's not good for your quarterback. It'll be what it'll be, man. What is the priority on defense? Which position group? They got to do something about the back seven, man. In my opinion, Drew, they still need an edge rusher because we're still getting old there. We're going to be down 2 guys soon. Brandon Graham's not going to play forever. We had to trade off a former first-round pick in Derek Barnett. So, I mean, just by definition, like, we're getting a little thin there. So they're going to need to add to that. I definitely think that linebacker, they've got to do something in the mid-rounds. I know they're not going to go high. I would be shocked. I'm not going to say they wouldn't do it, but I'd be shocked, genuinely shocked if they spent a first or second round pick on a linebacker. I'd be happy about it, but I think third and fourth round is their bread and butter when they start trying to pick them. They're going to have to do something there. They need a safety. I mean, we got Sidney Brown. I like Reed Blankenship. I still think that you need a third guy. you need a third dependable safety. Like having that rotation, having that depth at safety, I just think it's important, man. I think safeties and linebackers, you can expect a little attrition there during the season. Like it's going to be tough for you to keep every single guy involved, man. It's tough. It's really tough not to have an injury there throughout the course of a season. So, I mean, I would kind of focus on those areas. At some point, they're going to have to figure out what's going on the outside of cornerback. I don't know if it'll be in 2024, but there is a good host of corners coming through this draft. So, I mean, I think if you're in position, you're in the right position, you got the right guy on the board, I wouldn't hesitate if I was Howie to go ahead and take a guy high at the cornerback spot in the first or second round because the wheels are going to fall off, man. You can't keep rolling 30-plus-year-old corners out there and expecting things to just be perfect every year. Like, no matter how good a guy is in his technique, no matter how skilled he is, the knowledge he has, the wisdom he's gained there, the simple fact is this. Age is undefeated, and especially in the secondary. Outside at cornerback, I think is the most underrated freaking spot on the NFL field. You have to be so freaking athletic to stick there. So I think any slight dip, it's going to kill you, man. I think it's just going to kill you. What is the priority on defense? Okay, we did that one. Easy said, should have went for the Ben Johnson as head coach this year. I don't like the Moore babysitting the head coach. Are we going to get a linebacker from the Wolfpack? What's up, Unspoken? Yeah, I mean, look, there's a couple of really good players coming out from NC State this year. They've been pretty good at developing linebackers there. I will say the one that everyone is kind of coveting right now coming off the Senior Bowl, it's a little complex, guys, just because, to be fair about what I've seen is when you look at like Peyton Wilson had some early injury concerns when he was like freshman in sophomore at NC State. He had some stuff with his knee and stuff with his shoulder. He's been relatively healthy over the last few years. That dude, like if you read his underlying like numbers, you're like, Jesus, Steve, that dude is a freaking playmaker. I mean, the guy has like double digits in, I think, the sack mark. He's got some picks on his record, INTs. He's got like 48 tackles for loss in his career. I mean, the dude's super freaking productive. I know some guys around the program for NC State, and they're thinking this young man, this is a high expectation, guys. I'm not saying he's going to do it, but the expectation is they think Peyton Wilson's going to he's going to run a sub 4.45 40. If Peyton Wilson puts up a sub 4.45 40, I don't even know if he'd be available in the third round. I think that's going to be tough. But he's an inside backer with good size, man. Good size. He's right around that 235, 240 mark. Good length. You know, I think he's going to measure out above like 33 and a half inches in the arm reach. I mean, from what I've seen, I mean, I'm not out there obviously with a tape measure, you know, working with this guy, but I mean, from what I've seen from him being around the campus, like he's a big dude, man. He's a bigger guy. He's a bigger guy. So, I mean, I think he's got some intrigue. I'm not going to lie, but I'm a little concerned or Unspoken when you start dealing with Nakobe, who's super talented. Very few people have questioned his talent. A lot of people are challenging his, you know, dependability, right? Ability to stay on the football field. He's going to have to prove that. I get a little hesitant when you got a guy that's got a little bit of a track record early on in his career with injuries. You know, injuries are so, you can't predict them. A guy can have no injuries at all, be in the league for 2 or 3 years, have no injuries, and all of a sudden the dude's just injury prone. He can't stay on the field. Like, you can't predict that stuff. I get it. A guy can have a really sketchy injury history in college, in high school, comes into the league and is relatively healthy. It's hard to predict. It's really hard to predict it, man. But yeah, I mean, that's why I just think you got to keep throwing numbers and you got to keep drafting at linebacker, because I just think at any time you need to have 3 to 4 guys. 2 of your guys are going to be the best, obviously, but you need 3 to 4 guys who can legitimately step into a football field and play. It's just war of attrition out there, man. It's such a war of attrition out there. I hope we remain an RPO offense, just go more spread to run and our attack. No more of this calling consecutive play actions, even though we haven't established to run. What's up, Isaiah? He said, what's good, Gate City? The offense was super predictable, and I'm not super happy with the hire, but I understand it. In this system, who would you add/promote to wide receiver 3? I think they need to figure out. I don't know if Covey's the answer, but Covey is a natural slot receiver and a kick returner. Punt returner, I should say. Not kick returner, punt returner. That's a position that maybe they should be looking towards the draft, man. They might want to try to snag someone in the mid rounds. third, fourth round guy, a little underrated, guy that's a little shifty and elusive. I mean, he's going to get a lot of space to operate. You got AJ, you got Smitty, you got Goddard. If that guy's got decent hands, knows how to read the correct leverage against zone, can beat man as necessary, he can beat a guy on the inside, or he can, he's got enough athleticism where if you give him a free release, he's going to be a problem in open space, open field. I mean, I would look for that type of player, man. That's the type of player I think I would look for in that position group. We can't be afraid for Moore to be good just because they could lose him. Yeah, I agree. Uh, Drew said, "Damn, Gate, the whole back seven is a priority." Laugh out loud. If you had to choose one group, um, if I had to choose one group, I'd say outside corner up high in the draft. Outside cornerback. I know we got young guys that we can throw at the position and see what they can do given the opportunity. I get it, guys. I know everyone's a little different on where they are on these guys in terms of like Eli Ricks and Ringo and all these guys. I get it. Job, everyone's all over the map here with that. But I just think that to run Vic Fangio's system effectively, you need a true shutdown corner. One of your corners needs to be like a dude who can legitimately lock up number one wide receivers. Now, I'm not saying that dude's going to hold a guy, he's going to shut him out every game. But we need a guy that's not going to get taken for over 100 yards and consecutive games by number one wide receivers. So, I mean, you're going to need something like that in that system because he's going to run a lot of cover 6 and cover 8 concepts where he's going to do it's a half field read, it's a half field split, guys. So on one side of the field, you're going to play quarters, and the other side, you're going to be in a cover 2 concept. That's cover 6, basically. So, I mean, they're going to have to do something there. Normally off of cover 6, you'll see them building a little bit of like palm where they might try to rob the ball on the outside, or you'll even see them maybe try to trap. They'll work off of like give you a quarters look into like that kind of cover 6, and they'll try to come down and they'll try to actually trap you across the middle of the field. I mean, I'd like to see turnovers created, and I think we just need a number one guy that can lock up a side of the field, and then you can run those specialized trap coverage and stuff off the second. Palms, traps, things like that. Try to create turnovers. We need something, man. They need a spark there. Can you hear me? You want to hear something funny? I don't know if you guys can see this because of the camera, but there's a power button on the bottom. I think I pressed the power button, guys. I don't even know where I went off at. I'm looking at it, guys, but I'm reading from down below. My bad, guys. Where did I leave off, man? Because I don't know where I left off. I think I hit the power button on the bottom. There's like a power button down. I'm gonna hold it up top, guys, instead of down towards the bottom. That's funny, man. My bad, guys. My bad. You know what's funny? As I saw the volume thing you sent, Drew, but I didn't quite get what you meant with the volume thing. I was like, what's that mean? And I scrolled down and I kept seeing everyone say sound. It's all good, guys. I'm sorry, man. My bad, guys. My bad. Where did I leave off, guys? Tell me where I left off, and I'll try to pick back up what I was talking about. Oh, lockdown corner. Let me see. What was after that? So Unspoken had asked about why we couldn't tackle. All right, let me check the mic out here. All right, good. I wasn't hitting the button, at least. I think it was just literally dying. It's the battery. Yeah, Drew. It's the battery dead. It should be good. This is the second one. I got two of them. All right, so what I was saying was basically, guys, I'm just going to go ahead and say what I was saying again. They're not wrapping up and they're not tackling. That's the big part of the problem here. They're using their shoulders. They're diving down at the feet. The minute they put Kaylee Ringo in the game, the minute Sidney Brown was in the game, I noticed physicality come to the secondary. Those dudes were coming up and actually tackling. They weren't flawless. Sidney Brown still doesn't wrap up and tackle all the time himself. And I do think that Kaylee Ringo, I think, is better and more consistent with wrapping up and tackling, but he missed some tackles too. But I noticed immediately Kaylee Ringo, Sidney Brown, you put them in there with a blank. Those guys come up and they actually tackle. We're soft, man. They were soft in that secondary, and that's a problem because so much of that concept, the Fangio concept, is to take away anything vertical. So obviously the underneath stuff's going to open up. So you need to be able to rally to the football and tackle. And what I was saying is the problem I have with everything that's going on there is the fact that it's a pain in the butt that like other teams can run tunnel screens. They can run bubble screens, and they're getting 6-7 yard gains at will on us. We can't even get 2 yards off of them. And it's like, man, our secondary, that secondary was trash, man, for a while. I'm not gonna lie. He said, put me on the payroll. What's up, Justin? What's up, Justin? How you doing, bro? No, I didn't hit it again, guys. So it physically died. It was dying. I got two of them though, thankfully. So luckily I got two of these. So I can kind of I can navigate it that way. Uh, I think they need to find someone who can come up and play underneath. They need someone who can wrap up and tackle and play underneath. I just think the style of defense we play, their safety help. You know what I mean? Like, yes, there's going to be times where you're going to be singled up in man coverage and you need a guy that can play man, but we also need physicality. We need physicality here. So yeah, I mean they're lacking in the physical department there, and I think that's something that has to improve, guys. All right, y'all. I meant to do this outside. I was going to actually do this outside, but the problem was with doing all this stuff outside, I can't get a good enough connection to my actual like Wi-Fi. So I would actually I need to get something that would actually extend outside, like a Wi-Fi extender that I can actually use outside. Some of the stuff that's going on, guys, the reason I haven't been able to come on here too much is my niece lives with me, and she dropped the bomb on me like about a couple of months ago. It was like right before the holidays. She was like, "Yo, I want to play softball," and I was like, "Okay, like, have you ever played softball before?" She's like, "No." So I've been coaching her over the last 2-3 months, and I have to like she's got tryouts next month, and I had to take her from never catching or throwing a softball before to actually understanding the game and all the fundamentals. So that I've been busy there, guys. I've been real busy doing all that stuff, man. So that kind of took me away for a while. And there's some other stuff going on that I have to wait for resolution to happen. Once that resolution happens, guys, then I'll tell you what's going on with everything. And we'll be doing a lot more live streams until that kind of happens. I will tell you that someone did try to buy the channel, interestingly enough. The problem I had with it was it's like there's just the non-compete clauses and all that. I was like, nah, you know what? Honestly, like what you're offering is fair. I probably wouldn't make that over the next 5 years, but I'm not really doing this channel for the money. You know what I mean? Like it's just I'm not really doing that for the money. So I mean, it's just like I'd rather just kind of do what I'm doing here. But I do have a second channel, guys, that it's not necessarily sports related. Just look up my name, guys. Spell my name out. The channel will pop up. I just started it when all this crap happened with this channel, and I had to figure all this crap out. So you can, I'll be over there, guys. I put out videos there. I try to do like once a week. I try to put a video out there, but they're a little bit more lengthier, so it takes a little bit more time to put those videos out. But yeah, man, yeah. I was gonna set up my batting tee in the net out there, and I was just gonna hit some. I've been going out there for like 30 minutes to an hour every day, just doing something, just trying to like, you get older, guys. Like you got to find these unique ways to stay fit. So I just been doing that for like 30 minutes to an hour. I've been going outside, just hitting some softballs into the net. I was thinking about buying. They sell these things now from like when we were kids. You remember they used to have the old pitching machines that they would use in those batting cages at the rec leagues, to where you can go in there. You could schedule it out. You can go through the county website. And you can schedule out like appointments in there. They sell those now for like $400, and they do like pop ups and ground balls. Like, yo, you know what? 30 minutes a day of doing stuff like that. Because I got a young man that lives in my neighborhood who plays for Page High School. It's right down the street from me. And I gave him a lot of my football equipment. So I don't have my football stuff out there to get a workout in. Because he's trying, he wants to try to basically get into the conversation at the quarterback position for that school. He's got a long uphill battle there, but I gave him some of the stuff I had here, and I went over some of the drills with him and showed him how, work on your footwork and all that stuff. So right now I got all this baseball stuff here and softball stuff because of my niece. So yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing, man. that's pretty much what's been going on. What's up? Jesse says, what's up, bro? Miss you, man. Need that cerebral conversation. Appreciate you, bro. Get the mesh Wi-Fi routers, not extenders. Cool. Mesh. Okay, yeah. Appreciate that, Drew. Man, you should be one of the coaches. Can you be quarterback coach? We'll see. Maybe they got a good one in here. Extenders are trash. Yeah, they can be, Drew. I agree. I've tried extenders before. I bought some that weren't that great, to be honest. Drew, I think that was part of the problem, but they really didn't do a great job of picking up the signal and pushing it to the back of the house. So, yeah, I didn't have a lot of high hope that they would actually work in the yards. But, yeah, I'm going to try the mesh. I'll try the mesh out and see what it does. And see if that works out. I knew you've been doing some kind of coaching. She can't find a better teacher. Bro, appreciate that, Justin. Yeah, no, I almost – I'm dealing with this situation. I might have to. I might take up a position at one of the schools here. I've been pushed a few times to coach at middle schools in this area, football and baseball. Now my niece wants me to coach travel league. I'm like, it's so time consuming, guys. I love coaching. I do. Bro, when I got into college, I'm not even gonna lie, guys. I got into college. I studied history because I liked history. But really, I just wanted to become a social study teacher, and I wanted to coach. That was the whole point of it, right? Like, at first, I was going to be a PE teacher. I was like, I'll just be a PE teacher, and I'll coach. I was like, you know what? I kind of like history, so I'll just do history, and I'll coach. I really didn't care too much about the teaching aspect. I'm not going to lie. I caught up to that stuff later on. But, yeah, I mean, that's why I did all that stuff originally, too. And there are times I really do miss coaching. Like, I was telling Mike this. Some of you guys were early on saying, are you going to collab with Mike? I've known Mike for a long time from the Philly Talk podcast. Mike knows me because like he'll ask me sometimes, like, yo, there's times like I drive by, like it'll be like a Pop Warner practice or something, and like, man, that itch to coach, like it gets me sometimes, man. It definitely does get me, because like the last time I really worked in any fashion, I was working as a scout, and I was doing some stuff here for one of the local universities that's it's in Elon. Put two and two together, you can figure out the university, guys. And I was doing some stuff with them, and it's just like it took so much time up, guys. Like, I know a lot of you younger guys, you've hit me up a few times because you want to know how to get involved in coaching or how to get involved in scouting. The best advice I can give you for scouting is that you need to be involved in coaching first. The easiest path to being a scout is to make your way somehow, some fashion onto the coaching staff of a college football program, because most of those guys have got to do scouting. Now, what they will do is they will pull from high schools. So a lot of these scouts will form relationships with the coaches at the high school level. They'll ask you to come run camps with them. Get involved in these camps, guys, if you want to get involved in scouting and coaching. And then from there, basically what happens is that these guys will start asking you about certain guys that play inside of, your district. Some of the guys that play, you'll start asking you for scouting reports on them. They'll start asking you if you'd be interested in traveling and doing something for them. That's how that line of work kind of comes into play, guys. I can tell you it's time consuming. A lot of you younger guys that are thinking you want to do it, I would say do it while you're young, because I think once you start getting up there in age and you got a wife and you got a family and stuff, it's a little harder to do that job. I'm not gonna lie. Like, you're gonna be on the road for a minute, guys. So I mean, I know a lot of you younger guys, you've hit me up about that. I know some of you guys just graduated college. You guys wanted to get involved in coaching, and I told you guys, just best way I can tell you is get involved in camps. Start off with camps. From camps, you can go everywhere. I'll give you a little background on my story, guys, how I got started. I was in the military, and I wanted to coach. And Suffolk had a Pop Warner program down there. I came on there, and they were like, hey, can you coach defensive backs and wide receivers? Like, yeah, sure. I was coaching up, defensive backs and wide receivers, 12 and 13-year-olds. And while I was there, I had a buddy that was coaching with me, and he was like, yo, there's this camp that's down in Virginia Beach, and there's this major prospect down there that they're working with. Do you want to come down there and help set up drills and stuff? I'm like, yeah, I'll go down there. So I started working this camp, and the young man we were setting up drills for was Percy Harvin, former NFL wide receiver and kick returner, punt returner. So, I mean, that's the advice I would give you guys, is just be open-minded about how you get there and realize that if you want to get involved in coaching, if you guys want to get involved in scouting, you're kind of going to have to eat crap for a little while, guys. You're not going to be the big man on campus, even if you're a former player and a high-level player. You're there, you know what I mean? Like, that's just how it is, guys. And I would tell you that you need to get involved really, really quickly when it comes to coaching, because a lot of these positions are being filled up by former players. I can tell you that one of the last times I was coaching, there was a school out in like Wake Forest, which is right around Raleigh, that had like Torrey Holt and Willie Parker Jr. and a bunch of these dudes on staff, guys. That freaking program was really good. It was a dang good program, bro. Like, so get your foot in the door. That's how you do it, guys. That's how you do it if you guys are thinking about coaching or scouting. That's the trajectory that I can tell you that I know works. Now, if the best way you can get involved is if you're a D1 or D2 or D3 athlete, you stick around. After your playing career, guys, stick around and see if you can't, get there on some kind of a apprenticeship, internship kind of, course that they have there. They normally will have something there to where there's some kind of program that they run to where you could get involved there. I will tell you, coaching at the college level, though, guys, is the pro level is really bad. College level is bad too, guys. So, I mean, just make sure it's what you want to do. If y'all going to do that, make sure it is what you want to do if you want to get involved in coaching and scouting, because it's super time consuming. I cannot stress how much of your time is going to be taken up, guys. If you guys are really into it, just hit me up and let me know. You're gonna just message me. It's like GCSPO. So GCSPORTCHANNEL@gmail.com. And I'll try to give you advice. If you tell me where you live, I'll look up the programs. I'll see like how, if I was in your position, I'll tell you what I would do to get involved. But yeah, I mean that's how you guys get involved. I've gotten a lot of questions since I've been gone about that. Yes, guys, I've thought about coaching again. I've had a lot of opportunities to coach at lower level, and I thought about doing it again just because lower level is fun to coach. Middle school is really fun to coach. High school is super competitive. College is just, I mean, absolutely time consuming. You will have no personal time, guys. It is always in season. That's, just be aware, guys. Be aware. I kind of like doing this better. I'm not going to lie to you. The podcasting and talking stuff, it's better this way, guys. It's better this way, I'm telling you. You'll have more time to yourself, man. You'll get to meet people like Mr. Sandman. Mr. Sandman's a former athlete. He's a former college football player, guys, in the comments section, right? That's how I met Jalen Williams. My guy Caleb. Caleb's a former center. Played at Charleston Southern. That's how I met Max Brown, right? Max Brown, former Gatorade All-American. Played at USC and played at Pitt. I had him on the channel and interviewed him. That's how you meet all these guys. I mean, you can – there's no – what I would tell you is there's nothing stopping you from starting a YouTube channel. I'll tell you the market is saturated. For you young guys, it's saturated. There's a lot of us guys doing this content. So you're going to have to find a way of standing out and being yourself and building an audience. But nothing to stop you from talking football, and if you're good enough, you'll find audience, I promise you. I promise you, man. I've watched so many people that I know were pretty close to quitting, and if they had quit a month or two before, they would have never blown up, and their channels blew up. So, I mean, just keep that in mind, guys. I mean, there's different, you can get involved in coaching. You can get involved in scouting. You can get involved making a YouTube channel and segue that into media. Look at Brody. Brody did that. Segued himself into media for a while. So, I mean, there's different avenues for this stuff, guys. Mr. Sandman said, "What's up, man? How would you describe this new offense with Moore? Is it a West Coast offense?" I don't know how to describe it, Mr. Sandman. That's a great question because, like I said earlier on in the video, I was talking about it. He comes out of the Chris Peterson tree. That's where he played, Boise State. Chris Peterson was the coach there. Peterson is notorious for being one of these guys that has an identity-less offense. So he's matchup based. Same as like Nick, you hear those slogans from Nick as well. Now, if you're talking about the vernacular, Mr. Sandman, in terms of the play calls, I don't know if it's more of a traditional. I don't know if it's more West Coast. I mean, that's going to be interesting, man. I really wish I had more access to find that out, but I'm not sure. I don't know where he's going to stand because Mike McCarthy was a West Coast guy. Jason Garrett was more traditional. So I don't know. That's a tough one. Scouting there, you'd be great at. I did it for a little while, guys. I did it for a couple of years. I think a former fourth and John Podcaster got picked up as a NFL scout or something to that extent. You met Gail, maybe reach out, Chris. I think I don't know them personally, guys. I mean, from fourth and John, obviously I've had E-Rock on because I'm friends with LB and LB knows E-Rock. So E-Rock has been on the channel before. E-Rock's a good dude, man. He's old school here. One of the first guys. He was obviously part of fourth and John for a while. I know who you're talking about with Gail. I've never met Gail personally. Seems like a great dude. I think I know who you were saying with Chris. I think I remember Chris. So what do you think about this first round selection? I think it's going to depend on who's available, Justin. I mean, I think this team needs to be revamped a little bit. I think they still need an edge rusher. I still think that they need something at outside corner. I still think that they could use a third wide receiver, not that that's necessarily where you need to go with it, right? I mean, Lane Johnson is getting up there in years, so I do understand why someone might want to. It's just tough, man. When you talk about taking a first-round selection that you're going to sit as an offensive tackle and they may not play for another year or two, that's a little tough sell, to be honest. But, I mean, if you got the right guy, you got the right guy. You know what I mean? There's some talk that Fletcher Cox might retire. I mean, we do have 2 first-round picks at defensive tackle. I'm not saying you got to spend the 22nd pick there, but probably should keep filling the coffers at interior defensive line. I mean, yeah, it's going to be interesting what they do there. My very first football coach was from the old school, and he coached Franco Harris way back in the 60s. Gosh, God, Mr. Salmon. Yeah, that is way back here. He took me under his wing and taught me how to play the game. Yeah, I think we all, exactly, Mr. Salmon. All of us learn from somebody, right? We all learn from someone. Justin said, I'm about to call Hallie and get you signed, bro. I thought about basketball coach. I really just want to teach. Not sure if I want to grind. Trainer more likely. You can run camps, Drew. Same thing with basketball. You can run camps, and basketball camps are that's a major thing. It's kind of like baseball and basketball are similar with AAU circuit and the camps. Like those things are, number one, parents pay money for those, but number two, they're very much sought after and in demand. Football camps are a little bit more. They're a little bit more stringent, and they're also bigger organizations, right? I mean, you're talking about multiple people have to fill in and do that. I mean, I've talked to people that I know that are former collegiate athletes that asked me if I wanted to start a camp. And I'm like, I would be interested in doing something like that, but we'd have to pick a location. Bro, you got to get the funding for that because we got to bring people on. You know what I mean? We got to have 4 or 5 guys readily available to coach guys up. I mean, it's tough, man. But Drew, you can definitely get involved there. The multi-dimensional one, we won 52. We had Blunt. Swift is a beast, but do we go after Henry? It probably depends upon the contract nature there with Henry. I don't know what Henry would seek, but I mean, maybe. Matt Brown is an awesome analyst. I can talk football all day for free. If they paid me to talk about it, that wouldn't feel like work at all. Exactly, Mr. Sandman. There's really, that's what I always tell people, when it comes to, starting a channel, just start a channel. Just start a channel. No one's good when they first start. We're all terrible when we first start our channels, and then you grow into it. Maybe Chris Braswell at number 22. What's up, Mir Slime? How you doing, buddy? Have you seen Luke McCaffrey? I watched a little bit. I haven't gone in detail enough yet, Mir Slime, to give a scouting report, a legitimate report on what I think about him yet. But I saw a little bit. He's definitely was mentioned alongside of the young man from Georgia. We have late comp pick in the 3rd and New Orleans 4th. Do you think about trading back to the later first round pick and pick up another 3rd? I think it depends on who's available. I don't think that's a terrible idea, Antonio. I think it depends upon literally who is there. Who's there? Because 22 is kind of a weird place, right? To where I don't think it's unreasonable to say, not necessarily, you don't have to go to the 3rd round. You can trade back into the 2nd, right? You can trade back into the later 1st and pick up an additional 3rd or a 4th, right? I think it depends upon what's on their board, what they feel like they need to address. And, also I think it's what's on their board? Do they think they can trade back a few spots and get the guy? Cautionary tale. Remember the Milton Williams story, guys? We originally wanted the young man from NC State that plays for Detroit down low as a nose tackle. And then we wanted to basically trade back and still thought we could get him. And Detroit jumped us and took McNeil. And then we ended up with a really great backup plan in Milton Williams. So we got to be a little careful with that. But 22 is kind of no man's land, Antonio. I think you got a point there. We're a little bit no man's land. But that's also, I think, where Justin Jefferson got drafted. So, you know what I mean? You could definitely hit on those picks. We have late comp picks in 3rd and 4th. Pick up another. Okay, James said, or Justin said, how you feel about Reddick possibly leaving? I think him or Sweaty J we can move on from. I mean, I would try to keep hold of Reddick as long as I can. I mean, Sweaty J is better than people think. He had a down year in terms of his production as from sacks. But, I mean, I still think Reddick and Sweaty J got some – I think they can play, man. I think it was more so it's really difficult to be super productive as a pass rusher when your secondary is not in harmony with the pass rush. When the secondary is in harmony with the pass rush and you're talented, I think you see those numbers go way up. I think Reddick's a really good player. I think I'd be a little bit more – because I think Reddick can He's hard to block, man. Reddick is one of those guys that can take over a game on you. That Senior Bowl was hard to watch after the first drive. Milton and Hartman were terrible. Jose, what's up, buddy? He says, yo, what's up, Gate? You have to get on live more often, man, and miss your analysts. On our Eagles, what position do you think we should address the most in the draft? We were talking about this a little bit, Jose. I think the back seven of this defense has got to be addressed. I think they have got to take a linebacker, at least one linebacker, for the completion of this draft. They went into the season, remind you guys, with 3 linebackers on the 53. Now, they added a couple guys to the practice squad that were veteran guys. That came back to bite us in the rear end, man. I think that's a big mistake because the attrition at linebacker is so high. I think that's a major mistake as an organization. Been feeling neglected. My bad, guys. Have you seen film on Cooper DeJean out of Iowa State? He's a player for real. Iowa State is seriously on the map for NFL talent. I haven't had a chance to look at Iowa State yet, Mr. Sandman, but I've heard a lot of analysts are speaking pretty highly. I mean, they've had last 2 or 3 years, man. They've had a pretty good run in the draft. I love them both. Don't get me wrong. I need someone more well-rounded on the edge, though. Can play both. I don't need 2 edge rushers who can't stop the run. Sweaty J is actually a really good run defender. I think the problem with anyone who's playing that Sam back role, that you know what I'm talking about, that off-ball kind of overhang on the edge, I think that role is going to be tough no matter what in terms of run defense because I just think those dudes are always going to be a little undersized. Maybe you get a guy that's a little undersized but has really good arm reach, and that's going to help you create the edge there. I think the bigger problem was we got lazy in terms of containment there. I think we were really good at defending inside zone. When teams were trying to run up the middle on us, we were really good at defending that. Exposed on the edges. When people were running outside zone, we got exposed this year. And I think we had some problems with containment on the edges. So they're going to have to figure something out there, to be honest. Easy said quarterbacks weren't doing always quick game. They had all day to throw because there was no pass rush from us. Cooper definitely won't make it to us. It's tough to say right now, guys. Like I said, I'm waiting to see the scouting combine completion and see, it's really after the scouting combine we actually see where a lot of these guys are going to really go. You kind of start getting a feel for the actual areas in which they're going to be drafted in. Yeah, I agree, Drew. Doesn't matter if it was quick game or not. People were running wide open. And people were out of position a lot. Yeah, I agree. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all so much. We're going in for over an hour and 18 minutes. I'm going to jump off of here, guys. I got to go outside. I'm going to take a few swings at the net. And then I got to work on some video stuff here, guys. But I appreciate y'all so much, man. We'll do this again. This is Monday, so let's shoot again for Wednesday, guys. We'll try to do a live stream on Wednesday. I'll probably do it back here again. Eventually, I want to get it set up outside. I'm gonna look into the mesh routers that my guy Drew was talking about, and so that way I can just kind of, as I'm doing my outside stuff, man, y'all can just kind of rock with me while I'm outside doing all that stuff, and we can talk Eagles. I think that would be, good. What position do you think we'll target in free agency? Safety, I think, is a possibility. I think that they might sign a low-key linebacker. I like the names that were mentioned out of Miami. I mean, anytime there's a connection back to your coach, you always got to be aware of those connections. So, I mean, any connection to Vic Fangio, I think you kind of have to look at a little bit. Safety and linebacker, I could see a slot receiver if they feel like there's a guy that's going to give them some value there. I could see that. Cooper is a nickel safety, not an outside. Irmo said, Gate, how worried are you that he doesn't run enough, Kellen Moore? I mean, percentage-wise, he ran a lot more than what people think. He was normally pretty high up there in the top 10, but Irmo, we kind of got in this conversation earlier where I was talking about I don't know what to attribute schematically to him when I look at his time in Dallas, right? Because Jason Garrett is an offensive-minded head coach, right? Then you look at what went on there with Mike McCarthy, offensive-minded head coach. when you're talking about the install, the offense that you install in the playbook, I don't know how much credit to give Kellen Moore there. Now, game flow and what he did there, that's the role of the OC, that game flow is. So it's hard to say that, but those numbers were pretty high there. With the Chargers, I don't know how much of that was personnel driven. I think that's probably what you're saying, Ermel, is like how low those percentages were with the Chargers. I don't know how much of that has to do with like Justin Herbert and preferences offense, and how much of that has to do with like the just lack of personnel in terms of running backs. And I'm not saying that obviously Eckler's a really good receiving back, but I'm talking about a guy that can carry the ball 15 to 20 times a game. I don't know that they really had that there. I'd have to look into it, man. It's hard to say, Ermel. It's hard to say off the bat. Justin said, trust me, Gate, Coop 8 making it to us. Drew said, thank you. Out here in Germany, YouTube is my only football outlet. I hear you, man. You better be here Wednesday. How we should think about trading up for Cooper. He'll run a clean 4.4 at the combine, no doubt about it. Whew. Gonna have to trade up to 15 then. Do you think Josh Sweat for Buda Baker is a realistic trade? I'd have to look into the nature of the contracts and kind of like how that stuff would shape out in terms of what they would want contractually. To that, guys, we'd have to look at like our own cap situation. I got to see where money is. Money can always be created through cap, but I got to see where it is. I have to physically look over. I know some of you guys asked me if I'd make a video on the cap. Yeah, I'm going to do that real soon because that's going to come into play within the next, by the end of this month. We're going to be in that transition of talking about free agency. So yeah, like I'm going to have to take a look at that. All right, guys, I appreciate y'all. I'll see y'all Wednesday morning. We'll rock again. I appreciate y'all sticking it out through audio, blinking, flickering frame rates until I got that figured out, man. Y'all real for that. I appreciate y'all, guys. All right, y'all. Do you think it... Okay, no, I read that one. Lee. All right, guys, I appreciate y'all, man. I'll see you guys on Wednesday.